Welcome to Monday Musings with the Blended Mama, gentle encouragement for busy women finding calm in the chaos. I'm Teresa, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you are starting your week with your planner open, driving to work, folding laundry, or simply enjoying a quiet moment with a cup of tea, thank you for letting me spend a few minutes with you today. Now, I am recording this from Ohio today. We are in town for a conference, and I'm really excited to be hanging out with some of my planning besties this week. But we did drive all day yesterday, so you are not getting video this morning if you are watching on YouTube, because trust me, nobody wants to see that. But I am ready for us to talk about today's topic, and that is done is still progress, even when it's not perfect. And if you are reading along with us with How Women Rise, then you might notice that this is definitely not the next habit chapter if we were following in order. So we are definitely skipping ahead a little bit. We're going to skip around and um, it may or may not make any sense in terms of the flow, but it is intentional on my part. So I do recognize that I'm skipping. So just be aware that if you are in book club with me and you're trying to follow along, this does not follow along with the next chapters we're going to be talking about. So um, I just wanted to kind of follow some of the conversations that feel relevant both to me and to those who are in the group. And so today's episode actually comes from habit number 7, the perfection trap. And I have a feeling that this one is going to resonate with a lot of us. So years ago, I was in a business coaching community with Brenda Stir. And if you've followed her for long, you have probably heard done is better than perfect. And that simple phrase has definitely stuck with me. I still say it often, whether that's when I'm overthinking something or delaying, working on a project or wondering if something was good enough. Those words have definitely come back to me. But today I want us to maybe even add one more thought to that, and that is that done is still progress, even when it isn't perfect. Because sometimes we forget that the goal isn't perfection, the goal is growth. And growth almost always looks a little messy when it's happening. And for me, one place that has been showing up, especially this week, is social media. So, like I said, as this episode is releasing today, I'm getting ready for a conference with one of my best friends, Wendy. And so we've been doing some fun Instagram reels together, and they definitely have pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And several of them, like they feel awkward to me, like I just feel awkward. And if you've watched them over on Instagram, or they're also being shared onto my Facebook business page, you might not notice what I notice, but I notice the moments that feel stiff or the facial expressions I wish I had changed, or where timing maybe was off a little bit and it could have been better. The little things that I would maybe do differently next time, although, I don't tend to re-record things either. So because of that, done is better than perfect. So I probably would do some of them over again if, in an ideal world, but definitely with the time constraints and resource constraints that I had over the last week as we were working on some of those, I definitely didn't have time to redo them. But I will say it helped having my bestie, doing that alongside me, encouraging me to just go for it. And my daughter um, was there, like she's been helping me so with some of the behind the scenes tech stuff because, teenagers know more than most of us middle-aged people. But anyway, so she helped me with some creative ideas and has really helped us bring some of our reels to life this weekend. Um, and it's just a reminder that sometimes that confidence doesn't come, actually, probably often that confidence doesn't come before we begin, right? It's something that grows because we began. And that's a lesson I feel like I'm still learning. I will probably always be learning to some degree. And I do want to make another important distinction is that I don't think the answer to, done is better than perfect. I don't think that is lowering our standards, right? I think there are places where excellence really matters. And that definitely in my day job, that attention to detail is part of doing my job well. Accuracy matters. I want to do quality work because people depend on it. And if I miss something, I do tend to be pretty hard on myself because I know how important my work is. And I definitely still want to do excellent work and I expect that of myself. But I've also realized that there's just a difference between striving for excellence and demanding perfection from myself, right? Excellence says I want to do my best. Perfection says if it isn't flawless, it isn't enough. And those are two very different voices, right? Because one of them is going to help us grow and learn, and the other one is probably going to keep us stuck. And so when I look back over the last few years, I can really kind of see this lesson weaving into different parts of my life, right? So building businesses while working full time, learning new technology, starting this podcast, trying new things, showing up online, and juggling all the demands of family life, right? Sometimes there simply isn't enough time or energy for everything to be perfect. And at some point I had to decide that moving forward mattered more than getting everything exactly right. And something else I've been thinking about as I was working on this is that when we finally allow ourselves to do something imperfectly, we gain things that perfection could never give us, right? We gain experience, we gain confidence, we learn what works and what doesn't, which is just as important sometimes. We discover new ideas and we become more resilient, we become more adaptable, and we realize that mistakes are not the end of the story. They're often part of how the story gets written. If I had waited until I felt like a natural on camera, I never would have posted those reels, like ever, ever. But instead, I posted them anyway, even though I know that they are not perfect. Um, and hopefully, the next one won't feel quite so intimidating. And the one after that will probably feel even easier. So I want you to remember that growth rarely happens before we begin. It usually happens because we begin. And I want you to challenge yourself to maybe start something that is a little bit scary to you. Another place I've seen this idea show up is in my planner. And you guys know that I love paper planners. I'm actually using a little micro journal to kind of plan and memory keep this week. Um, but there was definitely a time when I didn't want to write in my planner in pen because I was afraid of making a mistake or afraid that things would change, and I didn't like to line things out or scribble, right? So I would sketch things out in pencil first, and honestly, I still do whenever I'm using stencils, mostly because sometimes they have like little ridges on them that, little imperfections. But and maybe if I'm trying like a new layout and I haven't figured out like the layout exactly, like where it fits on the page, but sometimes I'll still do stuff in pencil. And I really also love my friction pens because they're erasable, right? And they give me grace if I change my mind or if life changes things for me. But somewhere along the way, I have realized something, right? A planner full of crossed out tasks and erased lines and messy handwriting tells the story of a life that is actually being lived. It tells the story of plans that changed because my family needed me, or goals that shifted because something more important came up, or ideas that grew and evolved. Or maybe it's, someone who wasn't afraid to use her planner because she might mess it up. Perfect planner pages absolutely look gorgeous, and trust me, I find them on Instagram and Pinterest and I love them. But those lived-in planner pages tell a story of growth. And I think that's what I want my planner to reflect, not perfection, but a life that's actually being faithfully lived. And so as we're tying this episode into our planners, I want us to think about things a little bit differently. So as you are reviewing your week, find one thing you completed that wasn't perfect, but still accomplished its purpose. Maybe it was a meal that wasn't Pinterest worthy, but got everyone fed, or a planner page that got a little bit messy, but you actually opened your planner. Maybe it was an email you finally sent, or a workout that wasn't your best, but you did it. Or maybe even a social media post that you almost didn't publish because it felt uncomfortable, but you did it anyway. So instead of focusing on what you would change about those things, I want you to put a small heart or star or highlight it. I just want you to do something to bring that out. Not because it was flawless, but because it mattered, because it was finished, because it helped you grow. Sometimes we spend so much time noticing what we would improve next time that we forget this, to celebrate the courage it took to begin this time. Before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with just one question to ponder. What have you been waiting to finish because you're trying to make it perfect? Maybe it's a creative project or a planner page or a closet that you've been working to clean out or a blog post or business idea or maybe even a conversation you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, what would happen if you simply finished it this week? Not perfectly, just faithfully, honestly done. So this week's gentle step is super simple. Choose that one thing you've been waiting to finish because you want it to be perfect, and then give yourself permission to complete it. Learn from it, celebrate it, and when you review your planner this week, put a little heart or star next to it as a reminder that done is still progress, even when it isn't perfect. My friend, the world rarely needs our perfection. It needs our willingness to show up, to try, to learn, to grow. Because growth doesn't require becoming someone else. Sometimes it simply requires being brave enough to begin before you feel ready. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me this morning. If this episode encouraged you, I would love for you to share it with a friend who might need this reminder. You will find links in the show notes, including information about how to follow me on all the social media channels, which this week should be extra fun. And even a few planning resources I think you will enjoy. Until next time, my friend, remember, done is still progress, even when it isn't perfect. And I will see you right back here next Monday. Have a great one.